Hey guys, hope you're doing well. It's me, Bo, back on the Film Scene Investigation channel with another cult movie review. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for checking out this review. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the controversial French drama Fat Girl. Now, when this movie was released back in 2001, it certainly generated a lot of controversy in regards to its subject matter. So, I've been aware of this film for some time. It's somewhat notorious, and looking forward to, taking a closer look at this movie today. Just before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Fat Girl from 2001 was written and directed by the French filmmaker Catherine Breillat and starred the young Anaïs Ribou in the lead role. Now, I'd already seen a few of Catherine Breillat's movies. I've reviewed a few on this channel. So, yes, going into it, I was aware of the type of films that Breillat produced, and I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. Catherine Breillat is certainly a filmmaker that's, not afraid to push the boundaries and explore, complex themes. And that's something that I've always appreciated about her, for sure. Now, when it comes to the film's narrative, the movie followed two sisters, one called Elena, the other called Anaïs, who were on a summer vacation with their family. The older sister, Elena, who was played by actress Roxane Mesquida, was very beautiful and the complete opposite to her younger sister. Elena was confident around boys, openly, searching for a boyfriend, whereas her younger sister, Anaïs, seemed to be totally disinterested in them. Elena, being the older of the two, she wasn't exactly thrilled to be hanging out with her younger sister all summer, but unfortunately for her, she had no other choice. So the sisters ended up meeting this older Italian guy called Fernando at a coffee shop. They sat down and, very quickly it was obvious that Fernando had taken a liking to Elena. The Fernando character, who was played by actor Libero Dorenzo, was an older guy. He was a student, and clearly Elena was a lot younger than him, but clearly that didn't bother him at all. It was quite clear that this Fernando guy was very eager to get physical with Elena, while she was somewhat apprehensive about the whole thing. Anyways, this all led to a scene where Fernando snuck his way into Elena's room at night and basically tried to persuade her to sleep with him. While Elena was indeed attracted to Fernando, she was still a virgin. She had little to no experience around guys, and this whole thing seems, a little bit too much too soon. This guy just wouldn't take no for an answer. He was being really pushy, yet Elena just didn't want to go through with it. For a second, I kind of thought that we might end up seeing some sort of sexual assault take place, and those types of scenes I really find them quite disgusting. So, luckily it didn't, end up that way. Fernando eventually accepted that Elena wasn't going to sleep with him, and, well, that was it. We then saw Elena start regretting her decision. She had rejected this, attractive guy, and she thought, she had blown her chances. Anyways, this all led to the next night when Fernando once again snuck into her room, but this time they did sleep together. And, while this was going on, you had Elena's younger sister, Anaïs, laying in bed, awake, listening and watching the whole thing, take place in front of her. And to me, that was, just kind of weird, seeing your sibling have sex. It's just kind of weird. Now, a large chunk of the movie was dedicated to this whole Elena-Fernando relationship. And to be quite honest with you, I wasn't really all that interested. Because it was very slow and drawn out, yes, it seemed quite authentic, but as an overall viewing experience, I found it pretty dull. Anyways, the movie continued on. We saw some shenanigans going on that involved an engagement ring, but it really wasn't till the end of the movie that things started to really pick up. The mother, who was played by actress Arshini Konjin, was stressed. She had had enough of her two daughters causing trouble and decided to pack up and head home. The girls were, of course, upset that their vacation had ended abruptly, but as I said, the mother had had enough. She was too stressed to continue on playing referee between the two. So the mum parked up and went to sleep while her two daughters sat in the car in silence next to her. They were the only ones in the parking lot. No one seemed to be around, so overall it seemed safe. But out of nowhere, we saw this crazed maniac randomly show up with an axe and started attacking the car. This maniac smashed through the windscreen and hacked Elena to death right in front of her sister. Anais seemed to be in this total state of shock as this maniac then turned his attentions to the mother and strangled her to death. Now, prior to watching Fat Girl, I did actually go online and read some non-spoiler reviews. So, yes, going into this movie, I knew that something pretty dramatic happened at the end, but even I didn't expect to see what I did. I think what caught me off guard was just the level of brutality that we saw in such quick succession. I mean, the POV of the axe coming over Elena's head, I mean, that was, it's pretty gruesome to say the least. I mean, everything just went from 0 to 100 so quickly. I think even I was in a little bit of a state of shock from what I was seeing. So the final moments of the movie saw this crazed maniac sexually assault Anais in some nearby bushes. The authorities then later showed up and found her disheveled and injured. While it was obvious as to what had happened, in one final twist, we saw Anais maintain that she had not been sexually assaulted by anyone. I will admit, when I first saw the ending, I was pretty confused because obviously, we had seen the sexual assault take place. So why was Anais, the victim, why was she lying? There's a lot to unpack here. But before we get into the ending, I want to add some context to how I see things, because it's quite clear to me that the Anais character was clearly suffering from some sort of mental health issue. Anais was clearly insecure about the way she looked and basically used comfort eating as a way to suppress her anxiety. But what didn't help was the fact that her family throughout the whole movie basically ridiculed her and made fun of her weight. I mean, for example, there was a scene at the breakfast table where we saw Anais pile on a load of food onto her plate, and Eleanor, publicly criticized her in front of everyone. I mean, it shouldn't have really have been a big deal, but Eleanor, the older sister, just couldn't keep her snide remarks to herself. I mean, I've got a sister, and, the whole idea of publicly shaming, your sibling in front of everyone, it's a pretty scummy thing to do, especially if they're suffering from some sort of internal, issue. And I was also kind of surprised that no other family members stepped in to support Anais. I mean, it was almost like the whole family were ganging up on her. Clearly that, the type of abuse affected her personally, and, it just made her eat more. It just, compounded the situation. And yeah, I mean, that was just one scene I just talked about. I mean, there was loads of little seeds throughout the whole movie that, saw the family from the sister to the mother to the father, all criticizing Anais, which, definitely seemed very unfair. She was subjected to some really hurtful comments, but more importantly, those hurtful comments came from her family, the people that are supposed to be there and to support her. And, for me, watching this, the only question I had was, how long exactly has this sinister behavior been going on? It was a sad sight to see. And, make no mistake, this wasn't some tough love approach by the family. This was simply just unwarranted abuse. I mean, there was a scene that I have to mention where we saw Eleanor basically force feed some bread to her younger sister. The visual of Eleanor, stuffing bread down Anaïs's mouth, it actually was quite disturbing when you really kind of understand all of the context. I mean, Eleanor knew that her younger sister had some issues regarding food. I mean, whether it be some sort of eating disorder or what have you, Eleanor knew that. Yet she just made things worse. I guess the best analogy I could come up with would be if your sibling was an alcoholic and, you then started giving them beers all the time. I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster. I guess in a way you could describe the Anais character like a sponge, just absorbing all the negative energy around her and then internalizing it. You just had to feel bad for the character because, especially when you get abuse from your family, that's tough. And at the end of the day, everyone should be able to rely on their family members for support. So the fact that she wasn't, it was pretty disturbing. So understanding all of that context and nuance, and then going back to the ending, Anaïs's reaction to the murders of her mother and her sister, that was pretty telling. There was no yelling, there was no screaming, just this kind of cold stare. And let's face it, that is not a normal reaction for someone who would basically witness their family being killed in front of them. Most people would be, immediately screaming or trying to escape the car, but Anais just sat there. Now, like I said, clearly the character was dealing from some sort of mental illness because, she'd become so detached from her real emotions in that moment, she couldn't react accordingly to what she was seeing. It was like Anais was so consumed with this inner turmoil that witnessing some, sudden random act of violence, it just didn't register in her brain. And I think that would also explain Anaïs's reaction the next morning when she basically denied that she was sexually assaulted. And the reason that she denied it was because she was mentally unstable and not in touch with her cognitive emotions. So when I watched this ending for the first time, it really kind of caught me off guard because I just wasn't expecting it. So I then decided to go back and rewatch it again and try and dissect exactly what was going on here. And I kind of think it could be argued that this whole final sequence at the end potentially could have been a dream sequence. The reason I say that is because it's quite plausible that Anais could have just fallen asleep in the back of the car and her disturbed brain, created this nightmarish scenario in her head. I mean, if it were to be a dream after all, it would certainly make sense given Anaïs's reaction to the murders. Clearly she resented her family, so maybe this was Anais's warped brain, using or creating this dream as some sort of coping mechanism. I can't be sure that this actually was a dream sequence, but if it were, it certainly would make more sense. But either way, I guess it's open to interpretation. When it comes to the performances in the movie, I thought the actress Anais Ribu did a very good job playing the bullied younger sister. She obviously had a very limited acting background, but I actually thought that given her limitations, she actually brought a lot of realism to the overall film, and that was definitely a positive. By using her body language and facial expressions, Ribu was able to convey this awkward, shy young girl who was trying to juggle her complex feelings. I will say, for a debut performance, I was pretty impressed by Anais Ribu, and I'm kind of surprised that she didn't really go on to have any sort of film career. As for actress Roxanne Mesquida, she did a great job playing the self-absorbed older sister, Elena. Her character embodied the traditional ideals of what beauty is, which was the complete contrast to her sister Anais. While indeed Elena was very cruel and mean to her younger sister, there was definitely a vulnerability about the Elena character that was brilliantly conveyed by Mesquida. Now, it's clear that the director, Catherine Breillat, used the Elena character to reflect the social pressures that young women face today in regards to losing their virginity. That definitely was refreshing, this different take on it by Catherine Breillat, and I appreciated that because it shed some light onto this issue, where young women especially, seek this sexual validation, and they don't need to. It really isn't that important. And so, dislikes for Fat Girl from 2001. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the overall story structure, with the slow pace throughout the movie and then this abrupt, violent climax. As much as I didn't mind the whole Elena Fernando relationship, just way too much time was spent on it, which at times left me feeling pretty restless. I mean, let's face it, the story only really got going at the very end when this madman came out of nowhere and attacked the family. But besides that, what you're left with was this drama about this relationship that, didn't really go anywhere. I mean, just from watching the movie and then, taking some time to reflect, I just thought it would have been so much better if the murders had happened a lot sooner, because then we could have seen the aftermath and it just would have been a lot more interesting. So, ratings for Fat Girl from 2001. I'm going to be rating this movie a solid 5.5 out of 10. Fat Girl, directed by Catherine Breillat, was a compelling story that explored the themes of womanhood and mental health. I just didn't like how it was executed on screen, with the minimal editing and these long drawn-out sequences that really slowed the pace down. I mean, from a technical standpoint, this is a very good movie. It's a well-made movie, and Catherine Breillat, as a director, should be commended, absolutely. It's just, when I think about it, the story is pretty thin, and it only really picks up at the very end. So for the most of the movie, I don't know, it was lacking some energy. If you've seen Fat Girl, then please let me know your thoughts and memories in the comments section below. For those who haven't, this is a recommendation from me. I definitely think it's worth checking out for sure. But, with the subject matter, I think some people should be aware that you may feel pretty miserable after watching it. And well, that's all from me today, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this review of Fat Girl from 2001. I will, of course, be back next week with another cult movie review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Big thank you to all my current and new subscribers. Thank you so much for all the support. And of course, I'll see you next week. Take care.